Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be testing out an unexpected new palette that showed up on my doorstep the other day. And one look at this thing, I was in love. So we're gonna test it out together. We're gonna try and do 2 looks with it. I cannot wait to show it to you guys. Wait till you see the swatches. I just got done filming them. They're absolutely stunning. But before we get into that, I wanna give a special welcome to any of you that are new here. Thank you for stopping by. Please be sure to subscribe and make sure that your notifications are turned on. And with that said, let's have a look at it. All right, so the palette that I'm talking about is from Sydney Grace. This is the Unveiled palette. It is in collaboration with Kendra Matthews. I did not know who Kendra was prior to just reading up on her and the little flyer that they sent along with the palette. Apparently she's a bridal makeup artist, and this is kind of her like go-to bridal palette. So here it is right here. You have some soft pinks in here, some soft neutral, slightly warm browns, and then some cooler toned smoky shadows. It is so stunning, you guys. I've had it for a few days. I've used it a couple of times. I've swatched everything, and it is a gorgeous color story. I know that I fall in love with almost every Sydney Grace palette that they send me or that I buy from her. I have a feeling this is just gonna be another one to add to my pile, but it looks super pretty. If you're into neutrals and soft pinks and kind of that bridal look, which I know when you hear it's a look for a bride, I mean, I'm not a bride. I haven't been a bride for many, many years, but it's a type of look that you could wear for any special occasion or even just for every day. When I think of bridal looks, I really just think of like soft glam makeup looks, which are for anyone, even if you are not a bride or a bride-to-be. So let's have a look at this a little bit closer. I'll insert a close-up for you guys right here, along with the swatches. I swatched these row by row, and as you will see, they're kind of in like color themes. So your top row is your soft pinks, your middle row is kind of your warm, natural browns, and then your bottom row are your cooler tones. I wanted to read for you guys. So there's a little section on here that talks about Kendra and kind of her story, who she is, and it says on here, this palette encapsulates the 3 most requested looks I have as a bridal makeup artist. Those would be the soft glam pinks, the warm browns and golds, and the cool toned smoky eye. So today I want to try 2 of those looks with this palette. I wish I could do 3. I just don't have the ability to do that. My eyes just get too sore when I wash off too many makeup looks in a row. I used to do that with my 7 looks videos like a couple years ago, and I found it to be way too hard on my eyes. So today we're just gonna do 2 different looks with this palette. I think I'm gonna start off with a soft pink look, and then we'll do something a little bit more smoky. I still haven't decided if I want to go with the browns or with the cool tones. We'll kind of play it by ear, but let's start off with this top row and kind of concentrate on these soft pinks. Let me just kick things off. I'm going to use my little, told you guys about this in my last video, my little dry brush here, and get my brush nice and clean. I probably am going to use my Sigma brush as well today. This E25 brush, I know it's been like a cult favorite for a long time. I've had it for about a year now. The longer I've had it, the more I really love the versatility that this brush has. It's fantastic. Okay, why am I talking about that? Let's jump into the shadows. First off, let's go with this shade right here. This is the lightest matte pink. By the way, one thing I wanted to mention, which you may have noticed when you were looking at the swatches, there are only 4 shimmers in here. Very heavy on the mattes. Actually didn't even realize that until I had played with this a couple of times. But the good thing about this is the 2, especially the lighter shimmers they give you, which I'm very critical of palettes that don't give you good light shimmers because I rely on shades like that. These are perfect colors. I feel like they would be very versatile with a lot of different types of looks. But just be aware of that. If you're into shimmers more than mattes, then maybe this palette will be a little too heavy on the mattes for you. Okay, let's start off with this shade, Happy Wedding Day. And take a little bit of that, actually quite a bit of that. It's a very light pink. By the way, the rest of my makeup that I'm wearing today, I will list down below for you guys. I'm just going to throw this really wide through my crease and kind of pull out to the tail of my brow. It's very light, but it does have a good amount of pigment to it. By the way, one thing I wanted to mention, in case you are new to Sydney Grace, this palette does come in both a light version and a deep version. So for those of you that have more medium to deep skin tones, or if you like just deeper shades in general, some of the shades in the Sydney Grace deep palette are going to be more appropriate for those with deeper skin tones, which I love. I love that she does that. I think it's brilliant, especially for like transition shades, which don't work the same for everyone. Let's add a little bit more to the lower lash line. For that, we're going to take the E25 brush, same shade, that light matte pink. Just run that lightly down below, just on the outer half. Now we're going to add just a bit of depth. I'm going to take this pink right here, also a matte, on the Sigma brush. That we're going to concentrate in this socket. I'm pulling that in just about halfway. right, now we're gonna add just a tiny bit more depth right here at this outer corner with this last shade on this row. This is the shade Maid of Honor. By the way, this shade is called Honeymoon Phase. I love the names in here. They're all very wedding themed, as you would probably guess. This one, just on the tip of that E25 brush, we're going to concentrate on this outer corner, mostly at the lash line. Slowly feather that in about halfway. Taking just what's left on the brush, I'm gonna run a tiny bit from the outer corner just down below the outermost edge of the lower lash line. Same on this side. I didn't dip it again. I'm just kind of dragging some of this pigment down. If you've got a little messy, you can always take a damp sponge, especially if it has a little bit of concealer on it. I find this works even better. Just kind of dab it along that outer edge to clean things up. Okay, let's add some of the shimmer. Now this shimmer, super foiled and almost flaky, but in a really beautiful sparkly way. Kind of reminds me of some of the Anastasia foiled shimmers. It's super intense, super reflective. I haven't tried using this with a brush yet. I'm not quite sure how that would apply, but I just like to put it on my ring finger and tap it lightly all across the inner, I would say 2/3 of the lid. I'm gonna go back to that E25 brush. I just wiped it off on that rag, and I'm just going to feather kind of this outer edge in just to take some of that shimmer that strayed too far over to the outer corner. And there we have it. I do want to take a sponge because this shade does have a good bit of fallout. And because it's such a flaky, kind of textury sort of shade, I really don't want that down on the lower lash line. You could use it on the inner corner if you use a damp brush, but I'd be very careful. But for today, rather than do that, I kind of want to take this matte ivory shade right here and put that right on that kind of lower inner corner, just to brighten things up without them getting too over the top or intense. As much as I love that shimmery shade, it is pretty bold. So I'm just taking a small pinpoint brush, a little bit of this shade, which is Canaille Kisses. Okay, there we have it. I'm gonna add a little bit of liner. Let's just take my Wet n Wild Simma Brown now. Just right at the lash line on the outer corner. Just building up a baby wing here. Now, if I was really doing this look for a wedding, I would probably add some black gel liner and a set of half lashes. We'll do that for our next look, but I didn't want to do that for this one because I've got to wash it off right after this. Okay, there's the liner. I'm gonna add just a couple coats of my Pat McGrath mascara, then we'll have one final look, and then we'll move on to the second look. All right, and here is the first look, all finished. So pretty. I love a good soft pink look. I feel like it always looks good. And Cindy Grace can do pinks, in my opinion, better than anyone. And I feel like this is proof of that. So beautiful look, whether you're a bride or you're just a normal everyday mom like myself, I think this one is stunning. So I'm going to wash this one off, and then we're gonna move on to look number 2. All right, moving on to look number 2. So I think I wanna go with the cool tones. I generally am more inclined towards warm tones, but it's been a while since I've done a truly cool tone smoky eye. We're gonna give it a try today. Now this bottom row, it's all mattes except for this one dark silver shimmer right here. So I'm not quite sure exactly how I'm gonna get this to work for my style of smoky eye, but I guess we'll figure it out as we go. So we're gonna jump in first with this shade right here. This is the shade I Do, kind of a cool tone purpley gray. So I'm gonna take that on my large blending brush and just apply that through my crease. And I think for this look, we'll do liner and lashes. Go a little bit more glam for this one. That is a beautiful color. Now I'm gonna take that same shade on my Sigma brush, run that down below the lower lash line. Okay, now we're gonna deepen things up with this color right here, this color Unity. This I'm going to concentrate just on this outer third of the lid, starting at the lash line. This side has a little bit of patchiness. I think it may have been from my concealer underneath not being set all the way because this side looks fine. Okay, I'm gonna take just a tiny bit on that same brush right at the very tip of that same shade Unity, and we're gonna run this very lightly under the lower lash line, kind of starting right at that outer corner and just pulling some of that pigment down below. Oh boy, I don't usually do colors this dark on my lower lash line. I'll wipe that brush off and then just keep blending lightly under the lower lash line just to really get that nice and diffused. Now I want to take a little bit of this deep pewter shimmer. This is called It's Your Day. We're going to apply this on the outer half of the lid, kind of slightly overlapping that darker matte color that we just put down. Then I'm very lightly, I know there's a really harsh line right there, I'm going to take a clean finger. I'm going to take that edge and just very lightly smudge it out, and I'm kind of pulling it in just a little bit. I just don't want to pull it in too far because I don't want this dark color to close my eye off too much, but I want that color to be nice and faded, and then we're going to overlap it with that matte shimmer. Now we're going to add that matte white or that matte ivory color. This color right here is called Can I Kisses. I'm going to apply this one with kind of a flat brush like this. I'm going to load up that flat brush and tap that starting in the inner corner. Ooh, that's a nice pigmented ivory color. Just lightly overlap right there, and we'll work on this, on blending out this line right here. Don't worry about that too much right now. Now if you have larger eyes and you don't mind a very dark, smoky, dramatic look, you could take that darker shimmer almost all the way in and then just put this ivory on your inner corner, the inner third of your lid. I don't like to do that because it closes off my smaller eyes so much. So I'm taking this almost halfway in to kind of re-brighten up my eyes a bit. And now I'm gonna take my finger, and right where those two shades meet, I'm not going to swipe, I'm just lightly going to press over those two so they kind of just meld together. So you can't see where one starts and one stops. Kind of just run together seamlessly in a perfect ombre effect. Okay, we're just about there. I'm just gonna add a tiny bit more depth right at the lashes because I really wanna use this matte black right here. This shade is called Not a Bridezilla. I'm gonna take that on a little smudgy brush like this. I hope this works. My eyes are just a little bit watery because I just scrubbed them to get that last look off, and they are very sensitive, so I can start to feel them watering just a tiny bit right by the lashes. I'm really basically just lining with this, very lightly kind of flicking it upwards. Just want a little bit of depth right there. I'm gonna take a tiny bit right down below, really just to clean up this line right here. Now I can feel my eyes watering right there, so this is probably not going to look amazing. Normally that's not an issue for me. It's just because my eyes can't handle two looks in one day, but we're gonna just do our best. Try not to go too close to my eyeball. Okay, all right, now back to that initial blending brush that I used. I just want to very lightly, barely touching it, just go over this top edge to make sure it's nice and blended. I don't want to spread that dark shadow out too much though, so I'm not pressing very hard at all. Let's add some liner. I'm going to take gel liner today. This is from Natasha Denona. Any black gel liner will do. And we're just gonna do a bit of a wing, and then we're gonna add some mascara and some lashes. All right, here we have the second look. Much more deep, much more smoky. I haven't done a smoky eye this dark for a very long time. It's a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I have to say, it's very pretty. If you're into cool tone smoky eyes, I think you will love this type of a look. I actually really like the matte on the inner corner. Not something I do almost ever, but especially with this smoky of an outer corner, I kind of like the matte on the inner lid. So I forgot to mention the details about this palette. It will be released on the 15th. It is $52. I will link Cindy Grace's website down below. You guys know how much I love Cindy Grace eyeshadows. They never disappoint. They're always fantastic as far as formulas. Her color stories are really fun, and this is a fun one that I'm excited to add to my collection. I think this one's gonna get a lot of use. And a big thank you again to Cindy Grace for sending this my way. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Let me give you one last reminder. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do that before you leave, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.